Welcome, Stoners, for another juicy episode of Turning Stones podcast. Now, we always say this nearly in every episode, but this one definitely has plenty of meat to the bone, and we never fail to deliver. Before we get stuck into it and our topic of today, Sam, on the other end, how you going, mate?
Yes, Terry. Great, yourself?
Yeah, can't complain. And just like we did in the previous episode, Happy New Year once again to not only yourself, but the Stoners. How's 2021 treating you thus far? Keeping COVID safe?
Yeah, definitely keeping COVID safe and staying out of a bit of trouble and just getting the job done, I suppose. But another year and hopefully we'll get over this COVID situation and we won't even be talking about it, Terry. What about yourself?
Yeah,
How's
that'd
it going?
be great. Yeah, I'm going well, thanks, Sam. And just to enlighten the Stoners out there, I'm actually at home and I've got a green screen behind me with the terrific Turning Stones logo designed actually by Danny LaRosa Designs, who's one of our key supporters and sponsors. But Sam's actually in the studio. How's the studio going there, Sam? I miss that
good.
place.
Yeah, good vibe. Nice and relaxed here in the studio and just sipping on some. I just finished the coffee and got a bit of water here.
Delicious.
Hydrated, ready to rock and roll.
So you should be. They've got really good acoustics there in that studio. Obviously, we're not going to divulge where the location of that is, but we are based in South Australia. So once borders do open up, please make your trek down here. It's a terrific state and a terrific country. You won't regret it.
Definitely.
So what's our topic for today, Sam? What are we talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about political correctness. So pretty big sort of or broad topic. But recently we've had a few examples of what is right and wrong in the I guess the world of the world we live in at the moment. We get told some things we can't say, some things are wrong. It's very hard to know what's wrong or right. But yeah, today political correctness, Terry. We're going to go through a few recent developments and issues that have been brought up in the media and a few maybe that have been hanging around for a long time as well.
That's a delicious cuppa right there. Yeah, so political correctness, Sam, I completely agree with you. It's a very controversial topic. We could go on about it for hours, but unfortunately we don't have that time. And, we just want to give the listeners, the Stoners, just a bit of a teaser for today in terms of what we're talking about. So we're going to be going through mainly the political correctness changes that have happened as of late here in Australia. But it's been going around for the last decade or so. I guess to some people there is those that support it and those that are against it. Here on this show, we're just going to be a little bit bias and sit on the fence. We may sway towards one way or another, but it's just our own opinion. And of course, still we try to remain, modest and I guess unbiased in most of our endeavors. So
Yes.
Political correctness, Sam, funnily enough, a lot of people actually abbreviate this as PC, but, not coming from an ethnic community and ethnic background and like yourself as well. PC actually stands for something else in Italian, doesn't it? Per casa.
Yes.
So I mean, when you say PC, a lot of people might think it's something else. Could be penis center. I'm not for sure, but PC for this episode definitely stands for political correctness.
Yes,
and just as a little definition, just to really enlighten the Stoners.
Please.
Let me just. Sorry, I just got a little frog in my throat. Let me have another little sip of this coffee. Wow. Political correctness. It's actually a term to describe language, policies, or measures that are intended to avoid offensive or disadvantage to members of a particular group in a society. So, this is where I have an issue with it straight away. Now, in life, Sam,
Yes.
it's very difficult to keep everyone happy at the same time.
Spot
and
on.
if you
Yep.
ever somehow achieved to, I guess, keep everyone happy, guess what? You probably are doing this at the detriment of your own happiness because you're working so hard to please people. How about pleasing yourself?
Yes.
Now, just they say this in a lot of religious texts, regardless of religion either. But love yourself like you love others. So they're always talking about yourself first, because I mean, if you don't look after number one, which is us, who else is going to look after us? Yeah, we can rely upon other people, but first and foremost, we must look after ourselves. Same sort of applies with political correctness to some degree, that let's just believe in things that we are truly passionate about. Of course, we don't have to persuade or influence others. Let's just live the life like we want to live. Of course, there are ethics, morals, and responsibilities that are at play. Like, I mean, if you love killing people, that's just not what. And if you're really passionate about doing that, then yeah, that's not on, and you should be deleted from society. But that's a whole nother topic. So yeah, say things we really feel, and let's stop pretending to be so nice. Because, you know, for example, Sam, like saying after a barbecue, like, you know, you go and you have a family with his friends or family, you're saying, I really love meat. Then guess what? By saying that and promoting that, you're actually are causing harm and detriment to the vegans. They're gonna kick up a fuss about that. Oh, how can you love meat? It causes a lot of pollution, all the emissions, animal cruelty, and all that. So all of a sudden, you've had a really nice, enjoyable meal. You know, your family, you've had a few nice steaks, chicken thighs,
some ribs, maybe
some ribs. Yeah, absolutely. Some lamb chops, like you do on Australia Day, and we'll get to Australia Day in a minute. You know, you've enjoyed some meat, of course, with some salads and whatever, and all the sides. But you say you really love meat. It's a throwaway term. You're just actually describing what you've enjoyed. But yeah, if you got a couple of vegans thereabouts, or you've written a status about it, then you cop in some hate. Jesus Christ! Like, I'm sorry. Did I have to incorporate that I love tofu in that comment too? Like, seriously, it's ridiculous.
Absolute morons, aren't they?
Or how about, like, say in Australia, it's a Christian country. Like, let's not hide around or beat around the bush. It is a Christian country. We celebrate the Christian holidays. But for example, like a teacher in class might not know the religion of all the kids. Teacher around Easter time loves to give kids an Easter egg each before they go home for the long weekend. With the Good Friday and the Easter Monday, you have that long weekend, or sometimes it's school holidays, depending on when it falls. But, you know, the teacher might give the kids an Easter egg each before they head off home. But what happens if then, you know, after the public holidays, the parents come in, and one of the kids that received an Easter egg happened to be of Muslim religion, and they'll be saying, oh, so what, you give my kid who's Muslim, you knew he was Muslim, an Easter egg? Well, first and foremost, maybe you didn't know he was Muslim or Jewish or another religion, and you give an Easter egg. Well, let's just not be so offended, guys. This is just an Easter egg. Really has no real semblance to Easter anyway. It's just a bit of a gimmick that the retailers probably made a few decades ago, and of course it's chocolate. Delicious. Some nice dairy milk right there. I mean, are we taking things too far, Sam, in those couple of examples?
Oh, I think 100%, Terry. Those examples you've given are probably they're spot on. Like, people can have their own. I'm all for people having their own opinion. So don't try to tell me that my opinion of, you know, eating meat or, I don't know, whatever I'm doing, following a certain religion is wrong. You shouldn't tell me it's wrong. I'm allowed to have my own beliefs and things like that. So you can't tell me I'm wrong, because hey, it's a free world. We're allowed to have our own opinions. And if, you know, obviously, you know, as long as you're not offending people on purpose or doing it, you know, with a bit of aggression, or, you know, you're just doing it to, you know, piss people off or something. Like, what's the problem? I don't see a problem with, you know, voicing your opinion or having an opinion on a matter. Like, it's to me, these days it's been taken very far, this politically correctness term. And I think, a few examples we're going to go through now as well, Terry, that I think are just taking it a bit far.
Even like back in the day, or even sometimes today, we fall into little habits and stuff. But I mean, they were said this way for a particular reason. Maybe like sometimes, you know, when people talk about God, you know, and it's raining, it's thunderstorms, a lot of wind, and you think some people like to say, God must be angry today. Like he's pretty upset, you know, like when people throw away those religious terms in terms of the weather, like he must be upset. Now it's like, we can't even say he. We must. It's got to be it or that. Like all these bullshit terms. I mean, stop taking. Like, just take everything with a pinch of salt, guys. Seriously, it's not bloody hard at all. It's full on, and look, I think we just need to ease up a bit.
Yeah.
And Australia's pretty much a culture that's pretty laid back as it is.
Yes, yeah.
And for us now to get a little bit uptight, it's actually not natural.
No, and it doesn't seem right. No.
We're not being ourselves. And as you said, Sam, we all have opinions. And guess what? A famous man once said, opinions are like arseholes. We've all got one.
Yeah, that's true. That's nothing more true has come out of your mouth on this podcast, Harry.
And you know what? Instead of labeling it politically correct or opting towards that avenue, how about this, guys, stoners? How about just, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all. Unless you're with your close mates or relatives where you feel a bit more comfortable to be opinionated and have discussions, constructive discussions. It doesn't have to be an argument where you can just actually vent your point of view. But if you're doing it with strangers or colleagues or, environments where it's not called for and it's probably not appropriate, just keep your comments to yourself. If it's nothing nice to say, just maybe hold off. But in terms of everything else in life, if you're comfortable in justifying why you've said something, then go ahead and give it a go.
No,
but right. I mean, and the problem is now with political correctness too, especially like with your high-profile celebrities, politicians, leaders, it's now become expected that they are politically correct. Yeah. So now there's an expectation, and that definitely does filter through to the community thereafter. So I think we just need to allow them to be a bit more comfortable. And so many times when you see these public figures speaking, they're like bloody robots. Loosen up a bit. Say a few ums and ahs, because that is natural. People speaking without that, I mean, it just seems like it's, pre-written. It seems like they're reading off a script. Yeah. It's not improvised or anything like that. It's just a load of shit. Like right now, right here, like we're not going to lie here at Turning Stones. We have some notes. We have a little run sheets. We're actually throwing you behind the curtain here. But we don't read it word for word. Say, like, for example, at the top of the podcast here, I did read a term straight from Google. I just wanted to get the exact definition word for word. But that's what Google's got of political correctness, just to give you stoners a bit of an insight. But everything else, we fill in the gaps. And that's how life should be. Sometimes you get a bit of a head start or a bit of a kick start, but then it's up to you to get the rest done.
Yep.
If it is to be, it's up to me.
Yes, well, recently in Australia, Terry, we've had a few scenarios with political correctness popping its head up. In particular with brand names. I think everyone's sort of seen and heard what's been going on about a few brands that are in Australia, and people have been saying that they've found these offensive.
Which brand, Sam? Because, I mean, like the one that's behind me right here, I mean, surely you can't find that offensive. That's probably the brand of the decade at the moment.
Someone might find that offensive. I don't know. But hit us up on Instagram or send us an email if you want. If you find it offensive.
They're probably thinking, you're discriminating rocks. You're only worrying about stones or something like that.
Maybe, it could be. But yeah, in particular, Terry, there's been a few that have rebranded and changed their name after, tens of years, I don't know, hundreds of years, some of them. They've changed their name all of a sudden because people have, just built up this sort of idea that they're racist or, they shouldn't be named this. So we'll run through a few of them, Terry, then we'll maybe break it down and see what we think about each one. Redskins in particular, they are now called Red Rippers. Now, I enjoyed a Redskin or two.
Oh, bloody oath. I love Redskins, and especially as a kid. A really delicious lolly. Probably not good for your health, but, with all things in life, in moderation, guys. And I mean, this is not a nutrition podcast, but things like that, once in a little while, enjoy them. And I used to sometimes bend them and pretend like they were a red mouth guard and stuff like that.
That's it. So they are now called Red Rippers, and, it's... We'll like I said, Terry, we'll break it down in a minute, but we'll go through the three main ones we're talking about now.
But just quickly, Sam, on Red Ripper. Yeah. Funnily enough, they've changed it from Redskins to not offend the Redskin Indians, right? Which, ridiculously enough, we do not have any Redskin Indian people here in Australia, to my knowledge. We probably have maybe a few. But, I mean, there's no major minority or group that are Redskin Indians that are kicking up a fuss. I've never even heard anyone in America, and I listen to a few American podcasts, and I've never heard them ever bring it up. So why is that an issue? It's like we've already created this as an issue, be like, oh no, we have to fix that. We've got other fish to fry in life than change the names of a bloody lolly that kids love. Kids are innocent. They're not going to think these ridiculous terms unless you put it in their head.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Red Ripper, by the way, Sam, they've changed the name it's not offensive in my opinion, but they thought instead of offending one group, we're just going to change the Red Ripper. But guess what? Red Ripper is actually the nickname of a Soviet serial killer.
All right. Jeez.
So
didn't know that one, Terry. That's
Andrei Chikatilo died in 1994.
Right.
He was convicted for 52 murders. So, yeah, the bloke's an absolute dickhead. But he was nicknamed the Red Ripper. So they've gone from one extreme to another. So, yeah, good on you. Good on you, Allens, or whoever bloody changed the name. You've offended a race to now actually labelling a lolly after a serial killer. Yeah, bravo.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and on the lolly topic, we've got chicos, which I think everyone knows what the chicos are. The little babies that are of a certain colour. They're now called cheekies, Terry.
Cheekies?
Yeah, cheekies.
So does that now give incentive to kids to be cheeky so they can get that as a reward?
Maybe, yeah. Could be.
Like chicos, really. Now, I had actually had this discussion with a friend of mine a few days ago, and I'm going to bring it up with you right here, right now.
Yeah.
Now, chicos, you might label, say, someone that's dark as a bit of a nickname. It's chico. But guess what? They didn't, prior to the actual creation of the lolly, how many times did you hear someone being labeled a chico, really? Even now, I've heard it maybe 3-4 times in my life. Chico, there's other terms to label someone dark or of a black color. We're not going to mention those because we don't want to offend too many people, but we're not going to remain too politically correct either. But like chicos, right? Do you think the name of a dark person was created first, like a nickname was created first, or the lolly was just created chico, and then because of the lolly is dark, let's just label them that? So really, it was never named after a slang term or derogatory comment in terms of black person. They just named the lolly. You could have named the black lolly, which was chicos. Now it's bloody, what are they, cheekies? You could have named those chicos, I don't know, cement slabs. And then afterwards, people would be calling black people cement slabs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whatever you named the lolly, they could have just labelled that person that looks like that colour, whatever that name was.
So now they could just transition to calling them cheekies instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, look at these cheekies. Or, no, you kids are being cheeky today. Guess what you're having as a punishment? Cheekies.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Then the kids are going to be like, Dad, I'm actually cheeky. I've been cheeky today. I deserve cheekies because they're probably addicted with all the sugar content.
True. And in particular, though, like these are lollies we're talking about. And like you said, Terry, like this is like, going to involve kids, or maybe, kids are going to be like, oh, why are these things changing? Why are they changing their name? And what are you going to say to your kid? Like, Redskins, we had to change it because the Native Americans, that's what they, called they were called the Redskins, and they didn't like being called that or whatever. Like they're going to think, well, for one, they probably don't even know, if they're kids, Native Americans, they're not going to have any idea that you say, Native Indians. They'll probably think maybe in India, I don't know. But and you just then you're feeding these kids from young all this stuff, and then it just leads into a snowball of political correctness just all over the place. And I can't even walk out my house without bloody getting told after, I'm being racist or something. Like it's getting taken too far. But I mean, we're here to talk about it, Terry, and we're here to provide our opinion. To me, it's going too far at the moment. And the most recent one as well, which is sort of what sparked our interest into this topic as well, I think, Terry, is the Coon cheese. Change. Now, this one has been in the news very recently. I think there was a bit of talk about this a while ago as well, maybe 12 months or so ago, and they were saying that it was going to change, but I think maybe they, would have thought about it and thought, let's postpone it, maybe post-COVID or whatever. But now they've come back and said, all right, we're going to change it. It's going to change this year, and the new name is going to be Cheer. So I don't know where they've got the name from. I guess it starts with the letter C and has I don't know, some similarity, but it's a weird one. But is this so? For those that don't know, Coon is a derogatory term to call an Indigenous Australian, but I don't think that this is where the roots of the name came from, Terry. I don't think so.
No, it's not. So Sam.
No.
Coon is actually named after the creator of this cheese. His name is Edward William Coon.
Right.
Now, it was actually trademarked by Kraft Foods in America, so nothing to do with Aboriginal people, the Indigenous, or Australia. It's just obviously they became a multinational corporation, Kraft, and they've sold their products around worldwide.
Yep.
So Coon is once again another Chico example where we're just thinking, maybe Indigenous people love their Coon cheese, and let's just call them Coons. Like I don't know the full history behind it, but it's named after a person. That's the person's last name, and yet we have to change it. All right, yeah. If a person's last name was nigger, maybe that's understandable, like to change it. But Coon, I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, why are we finding an insult to that? Like, does it actually mean a derogatory Indigenous term? Well, I don't speak any Indigenous languages, but maybe it does. But I mean, it's after someone's last name, and I mean, surely we can, I guess, understand that if it's someone's last name, and if it's nothing like if it's not the F word, like fuck, or if it's not anything like that, I think it should be fine. And once again, kids growing up, by making this an issue, we are then making them aware, racism does exist. There are not nice people in the world. But if you just let it be, when you say to a 5-year-old kid, Coon, they're not going to think it's a racist slang term for Indigenous people. They're just going to know it as cheese. Yeah. When you're going to say Redskins, well, unless they've been educated about American history, it's going to be the lollies for the first part of it, and then they might know. Like, kids do know that there are one word for multiple terms. Yes. Like, for example, bitch. You can label that as a female dog, or you can also label that as someone that's just being very uptight, annoying, or I'm not going to label it as a female, but like a female that it's been a bit annoying and should shut up. Like that's just a slang term, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're right. I think you're spot on, Terry. Like the problem is we're sort of creating, or not we are, because I don't bloody buy into this rubbish, but people are just creating these issues themselves by raising the fact and looking. They're actually looking for issues, Terry. I think people are actually looking for things to pick on and to create issues out of, and maybe to create some headlines or to get some social media following or something. Honestly, I think that's what it's all about. Because where was all this, in the 60s and 70s when all the European migrants came out to Australia and were getting called wogs? Where was this, Terry? Because I know for a fact, like my father, when he came out and their family came out to Australia, they were getting called wogs and dagos and all this kind of stuff, right? There was back then that people didn't care. It was like, that's how it is. No one caused an uproar and said, we got to stop this and that. It was like day-to-day life for them, and they used to cop it like that. But now these days, you can't even call it a lolly a redskin without getting bloody told off. Like that's ridiculous to me.
The beauty about wog is with a lot of those European settlers from the Mediterranean. So you've got your Greeks and Italians and so on and so forth. Is that they were labelled this term wog, which is actually a slang word for a cold or a bit of a flu. Trying to label these people that they're a bit of an infection.
Right.
They're a bit of a pest. No one likes having a cold. It's annoying. It lingers. Like label them. We'll label these types of people wogs. But it didn't come until maybe I'd say the late 90s, where it was actually a Greek individual, famous Australian, Nick Giannopoulos, who actually embraced the term and made it cool.
That's right.
And this is great psychological twist.
Yep.
In the fact that, sick and tired of being called this, I'm just going to label myself that. And then, you know what, when you label yourself that and you're comfortable with calling yourself something that other people have been paying you out about, guess what? Those that then label you that then will think again, because they'll be saying, hey, this guy's calling himself a wog, something that we used to call him to pay him out. Now he's calling himself that. He's got this swagger about him about calling himself that, and people are catching on. Maybe we'll stop talking about that. And then the funny thing is, you don't hear the term wog much anymore. But yet, when you do hear the word wog, it probably comes from those that actually were labelled wogs.
Yes.
So it's funny how the script has been flipped.
That's right,
Just quickly on Coon, I did find out quickly. So it is an insulting term for Aboriginal people, as it is believed to come from the 1850s Portuguese term barracoons, which describes a place's temporary confinement, which is usually a cage, for slaves or convicts in which they had to wait before being sent away to places where they were due to work. Right. So I guess, maybe when the English did settle in Australia, they potentially used the Aboriginals as slaves. And that's where the barracoons came. But I mean, where's the Portuguese language fit in anywhere with Australia? Got indigenous languages. We had the English for many years after the English settled. Like, where the hell does Portuguese come from?
It's weird. And it's just it just happens to be a coincidence. Well, not a coincidence that this cheese is called Coon. Like, to me, it's not. I don't understand. I don't understand why it's such a big deal. Like, I mean, if something was if there was a cheese brand called Wog, I mean, I don't think there'd be too much uproar, to be honest.
No.
Because, like you said, Terry, people embraced it, and like you said, Mr. Nick Giannopoulos there, he sort of made it famous, and maybe
made a movie about it. Two of them, actually.
That's right. Yeah, and maybe people should think about doing that rather than making an issue. You just embrace it and sort of shut down the issue completely, and no one's going to have an issue after then, because it's all like, oh yeah, it's fine, whatever, we'll go with it. When everyone starts getting offended and this and that, they try to put it on social media and start a bloody revolution, then it's that's when it gets you start getting conflicting issues and conflicting opinions and stuff like that, and that's when you do have major issues and people fighting, and I think we're taking it a bit too far, Terry. That's for sure.
We are, Sam, and to be honest with you, it's all about perception. Like, words are pretty powerful. We all have to agree. Like, obviously, they can be taken with a pinch of salt, but also they are very meaningful. Like, for example, you text your missus, I love you. Well, if you don't text it very often and once in a little while, it has a lot of significance and meaning behind those words. And, words, or whether they're verbally or written, they have a lot of, that is the forefront of our language, right? That's how we communicate. So they are very, very important, and they are very, very powerful. But they can be perceived a different way. So what I'm getting at is, for example, just lately, there was the storming of the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Prior to this, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, who won't be for much longer, he said to his fellow party followers, those Republican passionate people, saying, if you're not happy about the election result, and you do think, like myself, that there was corruption in some states with the voting and all that sort of stuff, he goes, make your voice heard. Like, go to the Capitol and protest. Now, protest, that can be perceived a whole number of ways, but the main way, if you're somewhat logical, is you go there with some signs, you go with a big mass of people, and you just, make a few chants, scream out some words saying we're not happy, or, something like this. That's a traditional protest. But some people might perceive a protest as actually, literally, jumping into the Capitol and start shooting people, harassing, physically, verbally abusing. But did Donald Trump actually set that up? No, he did not. He just said, if you are not happy with what's going on with the inauguration that's about to take place, go there and make your voice heard. Go there and protest. Did not say to actually, cost the life of one person, to actually get inside the building, because it's actually, prohibited for normal civilians to enter. On that respect, I actually feel sorry for him. Not that I'm a Trump supporter or anything. I just felt sorry for him in the fact that how people's words can get interpreted and perceived a different way. Just the same thing with Coon. Like now, people are going to be like, "Oh, you just said Coon. Are you talking about the cheese or the Indigenous Australian?" If you're talking about toast, butter, tomato, and then saying Coon, I don't think you're talking about Indigenous people. I think you're talking about making a delicious tomato, ham, cheese toasty, which I sincerely love. They were one of my favorite snacks as a kid. Making sure that you use proper butter on top. None of that Nuttalex bloody vegan proper butter, because it makes it really crispy, golden and brown.
Yes. Mwah. Yeah, and that's right, Terry. And I think the people that actually make it a big deal should be held accountable as well for causing the issues in the first place. Because, like you said, just because you're talking about cheese and saying Coon, it's like you're talking about a brand. Like, what's the problem? If someone shines a light on that specific word that you're saying and tries to make it an issue, well, I think you're the issue. If you're making that issue, you're the issue, not the person that's just saying a brand of bloody cheese, mate. So just relax.
Exactly. And just back into the Trump situation with the Capitol, for example, right? Now, if you look at it in the media, and again, once the media loves painting a certain picture and they love to, I guess, tell a certain narrative, but the person that actually committed the crime and the murders and all those guys inside the Capitol, they've been publicized and they've been sanctioned, but if anything, the biggest bad guy out of all of it is Trump, and he, like, depending on how you actually perceived what he said, he didn't even orchestrate any of that, and yet he is now the one responsible for this, and we're targeting him as the real bad guy. And I believe, actually, as of today, that he is actually in the process of being impeached for a second time, which is ridiculous. This is not a Trump podcast, but this is just an example of how words can be interpreted differently. Once again, with the Coon cheese or the Redskins, or whatever you have, and whatever there is in life, it's all to do with perception. And sometimes we just need to think innocent thoughts. It's like, when you're with the missus, you're upstairs in your apartment, you tell your missus, I'm just going to go downstairs. Well, she can perceive that one or two ways as well. So once again, I mean, you're legitimately just being sincere and honest, and unless you've got a little smirk or a bit of a wink, I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. But see how words can be just interpreted a whole bunch of ways, guys. Right there. And it's just pure example.
Yes, that's right. That's spot on, Terry. That's a good example. But again, the media just find their way into our podcast very often, and are the ones that usually create these issues, Terry. I don't know. We've had a lot of podcasts where it's just gone back to the media. We do beat up the media a bit, but they deserve it, to be honest. And because like this stuff with these brands, if the media didn't cover it so much, it wouldn't be a big issue. They just make it as much of an issue as they can, because let's post it on our social media. Someone scrolls through, Chico's to change their name to whatever because it's racist, and then people, geez, let's go and have a look at that, share it, this and that. They're just doing it on purpose. Like, just get over it. Find something else to talk about. It's just ridiculous. Tell us some real news. Tell us what's going on in the world, not telling me who's bloody changing their brand name because it's offending people. But it's just ridiculous. The media just need to be, I don't know. It's like
they're trying to inject fear, hate, and negativity. Like, for example, with the COVID, all you hear about is how many cases daily that the world gets, your local state or country gets. How about how many people have recovered? Or how about how many days we've gone without a death, or how death numbers have dropped off, or how they're still relatively low compared to other illnesses and I guess infections and diseases around the world. Like, it's still a low mortality rate, which means a low death rate, but yet we don't hear any of these positive news. I think in a time like now, more than ever, we need this positivity.
That's right.
We may or may not do another wrap up of COVID, hopefully once it's all said and done, podcast, but we're just going to give you another look at it, a bit more of a positive spin on it. Of course, we're going to spit some facts out there, but hopefully we actually get the opportunity to do one of those wrap up of COVIDs and of that the coronavirus, COVID-19, but we'll see. So a lot of negativity, and hopefully to you stoners out there, we're providing an alternate source of media for you, giving you a bit more truth, a bit more facts. Of course, we've always got an opinion, and the news columns always have that as well. But we just give you just another look at it, which I think everyone deserves to have a look at, another side of the coin as well.
Yes, and So moving on, Terry, we've got as well another big sort of debacle that was in the media again. Was streaming services that all of a sudden just stopped showing certain shows and either cancelled the shows or even like I think in particular it was older shows that because say 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even now, we weren't as politically correct as we were, or politically correct, I say, as we used to, or as we are now. So back then, a few things just were on TV and we had a bit of a laugh over it. And now to have a laugh over something that's at someone, I don't know, at someone's expense, I guess, but it's a show, it's a TV show. It's not like, they're going out and offending someone personally in their house or something. But streaming services like Netflix, and those kind of places, they've just pulled all these shows off because it's not politically correct. Some of the things they say in it, might offend people. But you know what? It's everything on TV you can take offense to, but don't watch it. What's the problem? I don't know. Do you have a problem with that, Terry? If you don't like something, don't watch it. Like it's your choice. You don't have to watch it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You're not forced upon it.
No.
It's discretionary. Like, for example, all the streaming services, you've got a massive catalogue and library of things to watch. Right. And yet you're going to watch something you don't like? That's illogical.
Yeah, it's pathetic. But
I know.
I don't get it. I don't know why they. And then, of course, the media again made a big deal about it. They've taken this off because people getting offended. It's ridiculous. Don't even mention it.
You know what that's like, Sam? It's like watching something you don't like, right, and being offended about that. That's like going to your fridge and drinking some milk that's past its use-by date.
Yeah.
Right? Just because it's there, I'm going to drink it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We all know, like, there's a date on there for a reason. It's past its use-by date, and you're going to have some solid, violent diarrhea afterwards. So don't do it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, spot on. That one's a bit of a weird one. I just don't understand that, and that's definitely taking it too far. But yeah, what can we do as humans that have to sit here and listen to this bull crap? We just talk about it, and another one, Terry. Now we'll move on from that topic, but it's a pretty controversial one. Now, Australia Day in Australia is pretty.
It's massive.
Yeah, it's important to a lot of people, but it's also a bit controversial. The Indigenous Australians obviously have an issue with it. They label it as Invasion Day because obviously, the Indigenous Australians were here in this country before, and it was settled by the English after and the Europeans. So I don't know. This one's a bit of a touchy one, Terry. I understand where the Indigenous Australians are coming from. It's sort of like celebrating when the country was taken over. I do get that. Yes. On the flip side, a lot of countries around the world, well, if it wasn't for other countries sort of invading or settling and this and that, we wouldn't even be where we are today, honestly. So if you wanted to get, sort of angry at everything in relation to, I guess, invasion of countries, we'd be pretty angry all the time, to be honest, because you look at a country's history. Australia a bit different, but especially in Europe, how many times did countries get taken over? And it was crazy.
So many countries were conquered and taken over and occupied, and some of these countries even today actually celebrate their national days of the day they became independent from the occupation. Like for example, I know Greek Independence Day is in March, and that's when they finally got rid of the Ottoman rule and the Ottoman Empire, when they told them to piss off, and they actually won that war. They celebrate that day. So you actually, the amount of lives that probably would have been lost on both sides, and of course probably more on the Turkish side at that point, so they could get independent, they're celebrating that. For example, Uruguay, their national day is the day they became independent from Brazil. I know Texas, for example, I know it's not a country, but it's a state. They actually celebrate, they have like a little state day where they became separate from Mexico, because obviously it borders with Mexico. So all these different countries, states, places all have their own day sometimes, whether they became finally independent. But on Australia, it is unusual to pick the 26th of January because it was actually a day where there was the first European settlement. This is the first day it was discovered. Now, you can't really discover a place that's always existed. So I find that a little bit strange, and I do somewhat agree. Yeah, maybe this is not the best day to pick, but we've just gone with it. It's tradition. One suggestion I would have had before they picked 26th of January as a day to celebrate.
Yeah.
But of course, we celebrate this day anyway. It's New Year's Day, so the 1st of January. So back in 1901, it's actually named Commonwealth Day. This is actually the day Australia became federated, where the 6 separate Australian colonies had agreed to federate and, I guess, become a new nation. This would have been a perfect day where we had 6 different colonies, South Australia, WA, and whatever, where everyone was independent. But then they just thought, let's amalgamate, let's consolidate, and let's become one nation. On the 1st of January 1901. And you know what? Could give even more reason to have a massive bender. Maybe have the public holiday on the 2nd of January. True. For example. So I do understand the Indigenous side of things where it came in and that's where everything went ape shit after that. But it's one of those things where, look, what can you do? And I mean, there is you can look at it from both sides of it, but I mean, really, it's just the day that they discovered Australia, the European settlement. And it's the Europeans that did come here that did, I guess, nationalise Australia. And once again, countries do get taken over. We look at, the ancient conquerors of the world, Alexander the Great. He actually went to Egypt on his journeys and his travels and renamed the city in Egypt named Alexandrina after himself. So he's gone there and actually renamed the city, and ever since they've just gone with it. You don't see the Egyptians having a fuss and kicking up a storm about the name Alexandrina. It's not bloody. That's not a Muslim spoken word or anything like that. They haven't changed the name.
True.
So that's just one pure classic example. You don't see issues like that whatsoever, and I think we've just got to move on and sort of get on with our lives. And let's become more as one as opposed to separating ourselves and creating segregations. Because Australia Day, unless you bring it up, just like we have talked about before, it's those that bring it up are creating the issue. Unless you bring out the invasion and, the mistreating of Indigenous Australians, which is, it was wrong.
No, that's right.
And not right. 100% agree with you. But unless you bring that up, it's not an issue. It's just the day that the English settlers came to Australia and found Sydney. It's not the day that they started murdering and, butchering and anything like that. There is no one day of that. There was like a massive period of that, which we should always remember, and that is part of the unique Australian history. And even though the country of Australia is young, we have thousands of years of history, which, if the Indigenous people want to share with us, we're actually pretty interested to find out about. Because the Indigenous Australians are one of the oldest civilizations of humanity in the world. So, and they've lived this long on this harsh terrain with so many dangerous animals. The climate's really tough. So many drought-stricken areas, natural bushfires, and yet they've managed to survive. So kudos to them. And, I'm really interested in that sort of history anyway.
Yeah. No, that's right. You're right, Terry. And, that's it. Well, it is what it is. I mean, we are not here to make the decisions as to, if it should be changed or the name should be changed or the date. But that's a good suggestion, though, I think, Terry, with the federation. That would be really appropriate. But, hey, we're not getting paid the big bucks to make those decisions or anything like that. But
the only problem I have with that, Sam, is that we have too many public holidays all in one spot. For example, Easter's got 2 then, and Anzac Day is really close, so we have 3 there. Then we have to wait ages. So we have Queen's birthday, then we have to wait another whole bunch to get to October. And then imagine we had Australia Day then being the 1st of January. Then we'd have Christmas Day, Boxing Day, so that's 2, New Year's Day 3, and then the Federation 4. So and usually some states only have 10 a year or 11 a year. Then you've got pretty much nearly half all in the space of 2 weeks, and then the rest of the year. Bloody hell, I'm waiting for a bloody old public holiday so I can get pissed on the Sunday.
Yeah, we do love a good public holiday here in Australia.
And just alcohol poisoning on the Sunday.
Yes, and another issue, another controversial topic as well in Australia is our national anthem. Now, a few lines and verses and whatever in the national anthem, Terry, are said to be not politically correct or politically incorrect. Now, in particular, the words young and free, like we are young and free. There's been a lot of controversy and a lot of debate around that because, well, like you said, Terry, before, we're not, the country itself is not young. Well, I mean, if you're saying Australia, yes, Australia is young. Well, it was, like I said, Federation Day was, when did you say it was, Terry, off the top of your head?
1st of January 1901.
01, yes. So 1901. So, yes, it's fairly young, but there were Indigenous Australians living here and were settled here for thousands of years, Terry. So, and also the fact that they're saying we are free as well. I think there was a bit of uproar and controversy about, the Indigenous Australians obviously being made or obviously be slaves and stuff for the Europeans when they arrived, and obviously them, committing genocide and things like that. But there's a lot of issues around that. But I mean, I understand it. I think I'm all for it. If we want to change a few words around in the national anthem, Terry, that's fine. If it's really offending people and it's gonna make people's lives better, then I'm all for it. But what do you think?
You know what, Sam? Honestly, like the free part.
Yep.
All right, yeah, the past is the past, and we can't change that, but we can remember it and we can respect it. And I believe there has been a political leader that has apologised in the past.
Yes.
So now it's all about let's move on, guys. Let's look to the future. Let's have that forward-thinking mentality. Let's be positive. And in terms of the word free, I didn't change that in the national anthem. We are free. There is no one in Australia that is an Australian resident or citizen that has any roadblocks. You have the capabilities to do and aspire to become anything you'd like to be. We have opportunity here because we are free. So don't give me that crap about the past. We're not looking at the past anymore. We're looking at the future. Australia's all about the future. Let's be positive. Let's go in an upward trend. Young, I can understand that being interpreted one way or another. Now, young is referred to, I guess, the Federation of Australia, which happened in 1901. So we're only basically 120 years into it. Happy 120th birthday. But of course, there were Indigenous Australians living here for thousands of years prior to that. But Australia didn't exist back then, didn't it? So the national anthem is of Australia, not of this land or of any particular community tribe. It's of Australia. It's actually of all the tribes. We can call states tribes or whatever you want to call it. It's the coming together of all the tribes, all the groups, all the states into one. We are celebrating. We are now one. And so I don't mind that change in the national anthem, one and free. I mean, young and free didn't bother me, but I guess it may have bothered some people. We could have just kept it. But sometimes you got to move up with the times, and maybe that is a better reflection. We are one. We should be one, and we are definitely free. I'm young, yes. Some people might call me a fossil, but I mean, piss off. I'm young.
Yes.
And I believe that we are one and free. I see everyone on the street as one of me. Like if, whether they're Indigenous, whether they've migrated here
that's right.
From the African continent, as long as you are here contributing to society, you're playing your part, you're doing, you know your role. For me, you're one of us. We are all one, and we are free.
Exactly. No,
and some of us are young, unless you got those old bastards out there, but we respect them.
No, that's right. No, spot on, Terry. Well said. And it's a good way to sort of argue the point against, making major changes to the national anthem as well. So agreed. I think we need to focus on the future and move forward and for people need to they say they want to get rid of racism in the community and things like that. Well, stop making it such a big issue then. Stop making the issue, let's live our lives, and if there is a major issue or, something's not right, I will call it out. But if we're just trying to pick things out, well, we're never going to have a society where racism is completely exterminated because you're just looking for trouble. Like you can't just say you want something and then try to look for, things to pick on. So, I think we need to move on and let's just relax with this political correctness, guys. last one.
That national anthem change, though, Sam.
Yeah.
I probably agree with it. Like, it doesn't actually bother me at all. And young and free or one and free, it's
whatever.
It's one word, and it still it fits in. It's not like they're changing the verse or the tone of how you should sing it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There are in the past been other countries that have changed their national anthems for the better as well, because previous terms are a bit outdated and actually not just politically incorrect, but they were really offensive. Like, for example, when Hitler was in power, he actually added in the national anthem, Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, which means Germany, Germany above all, because obviously he was running a dictatorship and he wanted to dominate the world. Once, obviously, World War II ended and Hitler had passed away and they sort of got away from the Nazi regime, they thought they would remove that because that was a footprint that he made on the country that they want to forget about, that sort of that past and move on. And they're not above all. They're equal, like just all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
So those sort of removals or I guess alterations or amendments to national anthems sometimes are for the better, and things update. Like, for example, in the national anthem we are girt by sea, but guess what? With the tectonic plates always moving, in a billion years' time, New Zealand could be right up Tasmania's arsehole. They could be joining onto Australia. So really, technically, we're not be girt by sea anymore. We might have to change it.
Yeah, maybe we might have to freshen it up as well, Terry. Maybe the beat. Maybe we'll get like, I don't know, maybe Sandstorm or something. To be, a bit of a techno, or I don't know, it's just a remix, maybe something like that. But
even Kevin Bloody Wilson might sing it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, maybe just
he's had a real cunt of a day or two.
Yes. So last
topic, like that word girt, I love that word girt. It's one of my favorite words in the national anthem in Australia. And Sandstorm would be a great tune.
Yeah, maybe a bit of Sandstorm.
That's how we do here on Turning Stones.
Yeah,
moving on, Sam.
Let's last one.
Sure about it.
We're chewing people's ears off here. Now, the issues of genders. Now this one, wow, I don't know how this has gone so far and become such an issue in our society where we can't even assume someone's a female or a male. Or wow, I don't know, Terry. I'm almost lost for words with some of this crap that people come up with. Having three genders, gender neutral, gender bloody this or that. I don't know. To me, there's only two genders. You're either born, you're a female or a male. I mean, if you want to change your gender, well, okay. I don't know. What can I do about that? I'm not gonna stop you now. I can't stop you. No one can stop you these days. But come on, it's getting a bit ridiculous. When you can lodge a tax return and choose between a male, a female, or an X or something, it's getting a bit ridiculous.
Yep. There's two things in life, or actually three things in life, that you cannot avoid or you cannot choose. We do not have the discretion. That is death at this point. Taxes.
Yep.
Got to love those. I mean, it's keeping us in jobs, I suppose, as accountants. And the third one is gender. You just don't have a say in that. It's a natural thing. There's no discretion. Of course, there's modern science to change that shit, which I don't think you should be doing. But there's those three things in life you don't have a say in.
Yeah.
They just happen, they occur, and you cannot avoid.
No.
Look, all I'm going to say is you're either born with a cock and balls or you've got a slit. Everyone's got an arsehole, as I said before. Yeah. So it's one of those things, Sam. Seriously.
Yeah, it is. It's just,
speaking of gender, we've got these terms like chairman. Now people are saying chairperson, it's got man in there. Or, batsman with cricket. Yeah. That doesn't sound right. And even the famous Lance Armstrong who landed on the moon, supposedly. So refer to our previous episode on the moon landings. But anyway, Lance Armstrong said one small step for man and one giant leap for, mankind, or something along those lines. Man. He's not talking about male.
No.
Yet, remember the word humans, which we are. Guess what's in human?
Yeah.
Man is inhuman.
That's racist.
So he's referring...
That's discriminatory, Terry.
He's sexist, referring to us as a species. One small step for man. He's not going to say one small step for humans. It doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound correct in the English language, grammatically correct. One small step for man and mankind. Stop throwing it another way and saying, "Oh, we're just talking about males."
Yes.
Grow up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's this picking things and trying to make issues out of things. Like, just get over it. If someone's saying a chairman, well, it's just a chairman. Like, well, chairperson, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we're not saying, all right, to be a chairman, you have to be a male. And we're not saying
you have to be a human to be a chairman.
That's right. Yeah,
a human.
Like, human. Yeah, that's right. Like,
chairman, batsman.
Yeah.
Batman.
Robin. No,
yeah.
It doesn't.
Do you hear? I'm a male. Do you hear me talk? Kick up a fuss about Catwoman?
Yeah, that's
Catman.
Right.
Or cat person.
Yeah, or cat indetermined.
Yeah. Cat X.
Yeah. So this one again, it's just taking it too far, I think, and people just looking for issues, and trying to cause issues wherever they can. And you know what, the social media as well. This is another thing where it's just people just look for a bit of clickbait, bit of exposure. Let's cause a bit of ruckus, get a few more followers, get a few more likes, get over it. How about that?
I completely agree, Sam. And on that note, I think that's probably enough out of both of us today.
Yeah, that's it.
We've hopefully given you stoners a bit of an insight to political correctness and a few updates to some of the recent things that have happened here in Australia. Once again, thank you for your time and tuning in, making sure that you're following us on Spotify. We also now record on YouTube, as you can see visually. Yes. We do have our audios on Spotify and all other podcasting platforms. So type in Turning Stones podcast on either of those. Make sure you follow us and subscribe. And of course, we've got our socials, Sam. What are they?
Yes. We've got Instagram at TurnstonesPod. And we're also on Twitter as well. So, hit us up. Give us a follow. Give us a DM if you want. Maybe if you want to chat. If we're not too busy, we might give you a DM back. But we'll see what happens. Any requests of topics as well, we're happy to hear. And we'll sit down together and just really break it down and see whether we're going to cover it or not.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Sam, thank you. Have a great day. And you too, stoners.
Goodbye
Enjoy.
for now.